Hey folks, welcome back to SC Hollers. I'm Saxon Wine, and today we are getting into mining laser heads. And majority of this is going to be about the size 2 mining heads, and that's because other than the size 1s are basically the same things, they provide the same buffs, but they are size 1, so they're not as efficient as the size 2s, but you can find most of this information on any website like UEX, Regolith.rocks, Cornerstone, etc., etc. That being said, I would appreciate it if you could leave a like on this video if you find this information useful. If you could hit that subscribe button, I provide industry related content all the time. But otherwise, let's get into this haul. So the first laser head that we're going to talk about is the Pitman laser. The Pitman laser is a bespoke laser head that is attached to the Drake Golem. The Drake Golem is a starter ship, and so you can buy the starter mining pack on the RSI pledge store, or you can buy it in-game for about 1,080,000 UEC. Now, the downside of the Pitman laser is that, well, it's bespoke to Drake Golem. In lore, the Drake Golem was built to compete with the MISC Prospector. One of the upsides of the Pitman mining head is that it is very, very powerful. So even on some size 2 laser heads, it is more powerful than that. But it does have downsides to it because this is a starter ship, and you don't want your starter ship to have one of the best laser heads in the game. Even though some people would argue that it is still the best laser head in the game if you were just starting out. And I am almost inclined to it. But there are quite a few downsides to it, which could prevent you from cracking some rocks. Another downside for some people, if you need to change modules in the field, is you need to be able to access the mining head, and unfortunately you can't actually access the mining head unless you pull out these ore pods. And I swear I will get this. Oh. And so if you have the VTOLs down, or the thrusters facing vertical, up and down, you can just throw these ore pods at the side. If they are horizontal, then you have to throw them out the back. But if we look up here, oh, here it is. You can see that the mining head is right here. And you can access your modules. It's kind of difficult to grab them, but we got it. And you can grab and replace your modules that way. This is a gold standard ship as well. So you have your components like the power plant, the cooler, and then on the top here you have the quantum drive and the shield. Now the downsides, I say they're there because with the Pitman mining laser and the Drake Golem in general, you get a plus 25% debuff to resistances, plus 35% to instability, minus 40% to optimal charge rate, but you do get a buff in your optimal charge window size with a plus 40%. So the first mining head that we're going to talk about is the Klein S2. This accommodates one module. It has an optimum range of 60, a maximum range of 180, a minimum power percentage of 20%, a maximum power of 3600, a minimum power of 720, and an extract power of 2775. The buffs and debuffs that it has is minus 45% to resistance, plus 35% to instability, and plus 20% to optimal charge window. The next one we're going to talk about is your plain Jane default mining head, the Arbor MH2. This is also the size 2 that goes on the mole. It accommodates 2 module slots. It has the longest reaching range of any of the laser heads at 90 optimum range and a 270 meter maximum range. The minimum power throttle is 20%. The minimum power is 480. The maximum power is 2400. And the extract power is 2590. Buffs and debuffs, you get plus 25% to resistance, minus 35% to instability, and a plus 40% to optimal charge window. Next, the Lancet MH2. This accommodates 2 module slots. It has a optimum range of 45 and a max range of 135. It is the second lowest range of all of the mining heads. It is a minimum power throttle of 25%, has a minimum power of 900 and maximum power of 3600, and an extract power of 2590. For buffs and debuffs, you get minus 10% resistance to instability. You have a plus 40% you have a plus 40% optimal charge rate, but you get a minus 60% optimal charge window. So you have to really have some modules on there to get rid of that 60% chance, or 60% optimal, if you utilize that correctly, whether it's through different mining heads on the mole or whatever. Next, we have the Impact 2. The Impact 2 accommodates 3 modules. It has a minimum range of 60, a maximum range of 180. It has a minimum power threshold of 30%, has a minimum power of 840, a maximum power of 3360, and an extract power of 3145. That is the highest extract power of all the laser heads. The resistance is, for buffs and debuffs, you have plus 10% resistance, minus 10% for instability, minus 40% for optimal charge rate, and plus 20% for optimal charge window. This is the only laser head that has a buff or debuff in every buff debuff category. Next, we have one of my favorites, the Helix 2. The Helix 2 accommodates 3 module slots. It has an optimum range of 30 meters and a maximum range of 90. It has a minimum power threshold of 30%. Your minimum power is 1020. Your maximum power is 4080. Your extract power is 2590. As for buffs and debuffs, you have minus 30% to resistance, and you have minus 40% to optimal charge window. Last but not least, probably the laser I use most often is the Hofstede S2. So the Hofstede S2 accommodates 2 module slots. It has an optimum range of 60, maximum range of 180, a minimum power throttle of 10%, minimum power of 336, a maximum power of 3360, and an extract power of 1295. That is the worst extract power of all the laser heads. As for buffs and debuffs, you get a minus 30% resistance buff, you get a plus 10% instability debuff, but you also get a plus 20% optimal charge rate. So I was not completely accurate. The Hofstede also has all the buff debuff categories filled out. This one also has an optimal charge window size increase of plus 60%. So that is the largest of all the mining heads. Okay, so this is the last laser head. And then we will equip all of these. Well, maybe I don't need to. My idea is to equip all of these and show you how they all react. So for the oh my gosh. Wait. Somebody shot me? I thought I died to a random bug. Ain't no way he shot me with a freaking, what is that, a Origin 315p? Dude shot me with an Origin. I'm embarrassed. Well, I guess I gotta go find a new spot. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the optimal charge window and the optimal charge rate. We are currently in the Hofstede Size 2 mining laser, and if you remember, the Hofstede Size 2 provides a plus 60% to optimal charge window and a plus 20% to optimal charge rate. Now, I do have some modules that I'll talk about in another video that do increase our optimal charge rate and reduce optimal charge window, but I just want to show you how these work. When we turn on our laser onto the rock, that increases this size. Now the optimal charge window rate is how quickly that box fills up. And so we're going to do a side-by-side comparison here once I get up to one. Once I get into that optimal charge window, we are going to do a side-by-side comparison. I'm going to show you the Impact 2 compared to the Hofstede, how quickly they charge up. So putting those two side by side, we can see that the Impact, even with the Torrent 3 module on there, the plus 45% charge rate, still goes significantly slower than the Hofstede, who has a plus 20% to optimal charge rate, and it had the Torrent module on as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is the resistance and instability. In the Impact 2, you can see that the resistance is 25%. It is red, and that means that red number means that the mining head is providing a debuff to that particular stat. And stability is 13.84, and it is green. That means your mining head is providing a buff to that stat. Now, when it comes to cracking rocks, in my opinion, your best option will always be to get the resistance down as much as possible. Now, it doesn't necessarily, depending on how much laser power you have and which laser you're using, that may not always be the case. You don't always have to go with resistance, but when you're cracking larger rocks, that is going to be probably your most important factor and will determine if you are successful or not. And so just doing a side-by-side with that 25% resistance on this 7K mass rock, almost 8K mass rock, we're at 85% laser power, and you can see how slowly this is charging up. Even if we go up to 100, we're going to let this charge up all the way and do a side-by-side with the Hofstede, and then we'll go from there. But you'll see just how much that resistance affects how quickly you can or can't crack this rock. So yes, both of those lasers were in real time, and I did not pause the impact laser whatsoever. I just inserted the Hofstede, and it was not fast forwarded or anything, and it still just dominated that optimum charge, or the charge level, because the resistance was lowered. And so that 30% reduction to resistance from the Hofstede is going to be much more significant when it comes to cracking larger rocks than the Impact would, even though both of them have the same maximum power. Doesn't matter how much maximum power you have, if that resistance is super high, then the Impact 2 will never be able to crack it. But then again, even with the Hofstede, like, you're at a limit. So there's only so much you can crack. And so just comparing the size 2s to the size 1 laser heads, the Prospector and the Golem will not be able to crack as much as the Mole, especially if the Mole is fully crewed and has laser heads with equipped proper modules. So I'm in the Helix 2 now, and I really want to discuss the Helix 2 for one specific reason. But to just remind you, the Helix 2 is the most powerful laser in the game, next to the Idris, and the Idris doesn't count because it's not a mining laser yet. Anyways, I wanted to show you how the resistance, the laser power, and optimal window or your optimal distance works over here. And so we are at 30% laser intensity, would be 1020 laser power. That is our minimum. And you can see our distance here. We're at 67 meters away from the rock, and we're just not getting any. We're going to increase a little bit. Even at 60% laser power, we're not getting any. And now we're up to 80%, and we're not getting anything. 90%, and nothing's moving. 100, we're up to 100. We're getting some action now. So at 67 meters away, and to remind you, our maximum distance or maximum range on the Helix 2 is 90 meters. At 67 meters, we weren't able to do anything to get up to the optimal charge window until we hit 90%, 85, 90%. Okay, so now I've moved the mole forward. We are at 34 meters away from the rock. So let's turn this on at 30% intensity. The 30%, we're getting nothing. And you can see now that we're closer, we're at 40%, and we're starting to get some action on this optimal charge. So now we're at 22 meters, which is within that optimal. And we're going to stay at 30%. We're not getting anything at 30. Let's go up to 35. Well, we're at 36. But you can see we're starting to get a little inkling of power. And you see how it's going down like that just consistently? And this is going to lead us into our instability. And so what's causing this to go down and then back up and down and back up instead of just like a steady charge rate is our instability. And so this may not seem like much, 15.38, but this at higher numbers will cause this bar to just skyrocket into your overcharge area. It'll also cause it to drop drastically. And depending on how much power or reduction of power you put into the rock will determine how quickly or how fast that will go. And so once you get experienced with instability, you can usually manage it fairly well. I've seen rocks with like 600 instability and 600 plus instability, and I've been able to crack them in the optimal zone. It was very difficult, but it is possible to do. Not ideal, but it is possible. And so again, just to show you, it went up, it stopped, it dropped a little, it went back up, it's dropping, and this is what instability does. So again, the final thing, if you don't take anything else from this video, when you are mining, the most important two things you need to know and accommodate for are your mass and your resistance. The common formula that a lot of people like to use when mining, and it's not 100% accurate, but we don't have a formula from CIG as to what this is. Generally, for every 1% of resistance, it's going to be 1,000 mass added to this. So when we're looking at the resistance and the mass here, the 16% resistance plus the 7,742, we're looking at like a 23K, 24K mass rock, if you want to, in layman's terms. Obviously, this is not 100% accurate. We don't know how resistance actually affects how you break rocks or your laser power. We just have a rough assumption of how that works. The last question that I know is going to be asked in the comments section is, how much laser power do I need to crack a certain size rock? So I don't have an exact formula, unfortunately, and I don't think anybody does. I know if you subscribe to El Guapo, he has a mining Bible, and I think in his mining Bible, he has a calculator that will get you somewhat close, but I am not 100% sure. One thing I will go with and I will have my mole loadout in the description down below. But generally speaking, if a rock is from 0 to 7,000 in mass with a lower resistance, I will use my impact. If it is 7,000 to 25,000 with lower resistance, I will use my Hofstede. If it's 25,000 plus all the way up to like 60,000, I will use the Helix II. And 60,000 is about the threshold, give or take, depending on the resistance that you have. So that's going to do it for this video, folks. And so keep an eye out for the next video. We're going to go over modules. There are a lot of modules, but hopefully when you come to the picking the choice of what laser head you want on your prospector or your mole or whatever ship comes in the future, hopefully this helps you out and actually gives you a visual of what those things do. I know everybody has their own ways of learning. Like some people are better at reading, some people need to see it for themselves or do it themselves to realize what's going on. Other people can watch a video, and really I learn a lot of stuff on YouTube. So hopefully this helps at least some of you who want to get into mining, and picking a laser head hopefully this makes it easier to pick a laser head. But that being said, I am Saxawine. This is SC Haulers. I would appreciate it if you found this video useful, if you could drop a like down below. If you want to see more industrial based content in Star Citizen, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to know when I drop a video, hit that notification bell. I would appreciate it very much. Love you, bye. Saxawine.